if every fighting game event were to be canceled for the remainder of 2020, do you think online tournaments would be worthwhile compromise? I mean, people would play online tournaments because that's what they had access to, but I guess what you mean by compromise is like, would players be willing to do it? Yeah, I mean, we're just all fiends for competition, right? Even if, regardless of whether you're making money playing or not, we all just love to compete, right? I mean, that's fundamentally what this is about. If you're in this to make money, you're in the wrong thing. Nobody makes a lot of money. Even Sonic Fox could make more money doing something else, as much as they make, right? Same with all the Japanese top players. Like, this is not what you're doing if you just want to make money. So we're all just like passionate competitors. So yeah, I'm sure we would put up with competing in whatever way we could. At least many of us would. The problem is that if everything gets canceled for this year, the infrastructure that the FGC has built for like 20 years is in big trouble. That's the problem, is that we have we might have very few things left, very few tournaments left, very few people who have survived, who were commentators or who were photographers or who were whatever, right? Whatever it is, like that infrastructure that we've all built up is just like might not be around. Okay, even after it subsides, yes, because consider the situation of each individual like party in the FGC, like all the little like jobs. Tournament organizers spend between 5 and 7 digits to run a tournament. Okay, even a regional costs 10,000 plus, tens of thousands in some cases. A super major like Combo Breaker and CEO, those are costing hundreds of thousands of dollars. Evo, I don't even know. I would suspect it's $1 million, but I'm not sure. It's just on such a different scale. So, if those are not done this year, the problem is that the people involved will have such debt that they just wouldn't be able to do it again. So imagine that you have $100,000 in debt. You have to declare bankruptcy, right? Almost everybody. And if you declare bankruptcy, good luck having any of the infrastructure to run an event like that in the future. These events do not pay for the next year. Okay, so it's not the case that like when CEO is run, it's not the case that the earnings there pay for the next CEO. They only pay for this one. When a major tournament is run, the event organizer indebts themselves to the hotel, to the convention space, whatever it is, and then they hope to be able to pay that back at the end of the tournament. If they can't run a tournament again. So I'm very concerned about that prospect. And that's why you saw, for example, like the folks at Michigan Masters have been talking about that. Final round is only refunding some percentage of people's venue fees because they just can't afford not to. CEO Dreamland took donations for the same reason. They need to be able to make up what they were expected to make, or else they can't do it again. Yeah, of course, right. So as 645 says, you expect some degree of more people or fewer people, right? You have a sort of range of expectations, naturally. To not have it at all, or to have like what I imagine is going for CEO Dreamland right now, which is that it's being run, but so few people are going compared to what was expected. Even compared to like the people who had signed up, so many refunds. That just drastically cuts into how much money the event expected to make, in a way that fighting games just haven't had to deal with really in the past, for the most part anyway. So that's organizers. If there are no events, everybody else who does work at an event has to find something else in the meantime. So I would prioritize being an attorney, although many of my clients are in esports, so I'm very concerned about just not even having clients. But that's what I would try to do for sure. Other people who are commentators would would try to do other things. And once you have worked at a job for a while, you know, you're sort of, there's momentum there. Maybe you're doing well. Maybe you don't want to give it up the next year. Commentators don't make that much money. Maybe you come into a situation where you just financially can't give up a job. And so that may be difficult to come back from. And it's the same for people like photographers and support staff and the broadcasters, people who do the stream, all that sort of stuff. All of those event-specific jobs that are only jobs if they're at an event, those are hard to get back. That's what I expect anyway. And same for players and teams, right? So if there are no events to go to, those players who make their salaries from teams or who earn money by winning tournaments, obviously there's no tournaments to win, then there's a big hit to their income. But in addition, if there are no events, then it's hard to justify teams still having players, don't you think? Like a team has players basically because the players are billboards that they can put stuff onto, that they can sell merch from, that they can, you know, paste little patches on that say Intel or whatever it is. They can make them wear headsets that is part of the sponsor. They're billboards. And if their billboards aren't seen, then there's no utility in them, and so there's not much reason to have players. And so teams would be in trouble financially. Most of them are already in trouble financially, right? There's very few who make profits. But they'd be in a worse position even. And players, as a result, would struggle to get any payment. They wouldn't be able to get salary. They wouldn't be able to get travel expenses to the few things that are run. The whole economy, the whole little system of fighting games, be big trouble. Big trouble. Big trouble. So, you know, many of us are talking about what we could do to sort of keep this going. The FGC. It's a crisis of that magnitude, it seems. We all hope that it won't be, but I think that we need to plan for it to be a crisis of that magnitude. And hopefully our fears won't be borne out, right? Of course. But, you know, as a lawyer, my job is essentially to think about what the worst case scenarios could be and then plan around them. And I think that's what we have to be talking about now for the FGC. What could we do to just have a community in the same way next year? Again, and that's not just for these major tournaments. Speaking about the locals that we were all talking about, what if nobody goes to them for the next year? Those venues would be in trouble. So how do we keep the FGC going? What kind of decisions, partnerships, relationships could we make, or could we count on to keep that going? And again, not just at this sort of big tournament level, but even when it comes to little locals. I mean, will we in a year or two have to sort of rebuild? If so, I mean, of course, it's not just going to be the FGC rebuilding. That's something that, you know, if we are forced to stay indoors, if we're forced not to travel, any number of things you're going to have to deal with that. Restaurants, I mean, any number of things, right? Going to be in trouble. But I'm sure the people who run those operations are thinking about this stuff too, so it's something that we have to think about.
You lose.
Oh, I haven't even talked about the Pro Tours. Will those be back? I mean, here are my two concerns with that. One is that in the short term, they will have pulled out of all the events and they basically will be canceled, at least for half the year. The other concern is that if they are canceled for quite a long time, and
Round one.
companies don't see any change in like how much advertising budget that actually counts for, then I think that's a cause for concern. Don't you think?